Alright, here we are with some Esper control, which has been the new hotness in Modern. Um, Coming in here, seeing if we can improve on our last run with it, which was not recorded, but I did get a 3-2 and a 4-1 previous to that, with pretty similar lists. One thing that I am trying is a lot of lists were on 3 Jace the Mind Sculptors. Um, and not that the card's not great, I think it is well positioned right now, but I actually just swapped one out for a second main deck Verdict that I think also feels pretty good. Um, you're a little soft currently to some of the creatures like Auriok Champion or Storming Entity, considering a lot of the time you have 3 Fatal Pushes, and I've even switched out a Path for the same reason, but just not wanting to be soft to some of those creatures, as well as ran into a couple of go wide creature decks, Merfolk and elves recently. So we're going to kind of see if we can mitigate that with a Supreme Verdict in the main here. Really, this deck has been an MVP showcasing for Kaya's Guile as just being a really solid card in Modern. I mean, I think a lot of people have incidentally had Graveyard Hate before and thought that it was pretty decent. I mean, people playing things like Nile, Spellbomb, whatnot. But Kaya's Guile really has showcased its talents with being able to sacrifice things and dealing with cards like Croxa, Young Pyro, or not Young Pyromancer, Seasoned Pyromancer, as well as just taking things out of the graveyard for things like Snapcaster as well too. So the sideboard is almost exactly, I believe, card for card from one of the championship lists. So we're going to just run that and kind of see what we can get for us here. I will see you in game one. All right, and here we are with our first hand. Definitely a lot lacking here. We don't have any known information. Opponent kept 7, I believe. Trying to take a look here and see. Hopefully our opt can do something if we were to keep this, but our hand is pretty slow. What I like about it is the fact that Snapcaster has something to do. So if we get to 3, we get to Snap Opt right away. So I think actually I am going to keep this. This is definitely a little slow. And this might even be just a little bit loose in general. But having a hand where we know that a Snapcaster is going to be able to do something and opting to try and find our lands both seem like pretty reasonable situations to put ourselves in. So we'll see how it pays off. Looks... Oh, that is interesting. That is not at all what I was anticipating. Mountain into Vial, so it looks like probably Goblins. I don't know of any other Mountain deck that has anything to do with Vial, to be perfectly honest, so I guess we will just have to see. Let's stop here. Set a stop here. I had to restart my client, as Magic Online has some fantastic features to it, such as not allowing you occasionally to be able to start it up. So had to go back through and restart, and with that having to change hotkeys for our keys and different things like that. I'm not one to sit and have a bunch of things like on my upkeep, on my draw all the time through damage and combat. You'll see the people that have, tons and tons of different ones. Personally, I'm just not a huge fan of that. I think that ends up taking more time. I just don't love that. Okay, so we're going to grab Watery Grave as we do already have our planes. Go ahead and cast this opt here. Just looking for lands. Really any land will do. Would love a blue land of some sort, but really any land. We do have to be afraid that they could potentially combo next turn. Although I'm not sure if that means that we'd be topping something like a path or a push here. Although I suppose at this point, push we probably would keep. I don't know if I'd want to keep path. Okay, well, land is great, so I'll go ahead and draw that. And what do you know? We drew the push anyway. Gotta have some luck to go with that skill, of course. See what they do here. Decent chance that it's end of turn. Put in 1-drop, the one that lets them sacrifice to make mana. That's not something we're too concerned with. They did not. Okay, so they could be leaving up a Vial activation for Snoop at our end step here, which is something to be concerned with. So they did reveal the Harbinger, huh? So this is probably going to go find the Snoop itself. So there's nothing we can do about that, and that's fine. The Snoop does not have haste, so even if they do have a Snoop in play, it will not actually do anything. Yep, so they did go ahead and find a Snoop. That's going to be on top of their library. And not having to play this turn is definitely bad for us here, because we are most likely going to have to do something on their turn to interact with them. Yeah, seeing that Opt's kind of an awkward draw, although I guess Fatal Push plus Opt means that we at least have some spell to be casting this next turn, or two spells to be casting this next turn, which is good. So they're going to probably Vial, I would assume. Vial in the Snoop. Although I suppose they could go ahead and grab themselves a Ringleader here first, but it doesn't make too much sense to me. Okay. So they must have another Harbinger if they're doing things this way. They're in beginning of combat. So actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just make them discard 2 while we're in the beginning of combat. Ditch out on their last 2 cards, whatever they may be. And then Sling Gang and a Ringleader. Yikes. Whew. Really interested in why they did not decide to go for that. But, I'll take it. And then this turn, they're going to draw Blood Crypt that we don't care about. So I think I'll opt, keep that on top. We can play our land. And then we can stop on their draw step, see what they are drawing, and then we can potentially Fatal Push the Snoop if we feel like we need to. So I'm going to draw this Blood Crypt and we'll see what they have. So let's let them cast that off the top, and I really don't want them to be able to do that. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and kill this right here. Take that stop off. They have their Blood Crypt that we know about. Now we're in a pretty good spot because we could... Actually, I am going to keep this stop set here just because there's a decent chance that if we draw land, we may be... do we want to... I guess jamming Teferi is the best here. We'll just go ahead and go up with it. There was some consideration for holding up Snap in their draw step to Snap Esper Charm, ditch whatever card it is that they have. But I think this is going to be better for us in the long run. They're going to get one good draw. We just kind of have to hope that it's not a Ringleader, I suppose. But I don't know that there's too much we could do about that. And then next turn, we have a chance to be able to tuck this Vial. And do something productive with our mana as well, too. Just to, doubly make sure that we're going to be running away with this game. But we do look like we're in a pretty solid spot here. Now, we don't have anything like, what's it called? The 3-mana creature that I can't remember the name of, Plague Engineer. We don't have any Plague Engineers. Oh, that's right, we knew they were drawing this, of course. Plague Engineers to, really just hard shut them down, but I think that's going to be fine for us. We're just going to go ahead and let the Teferi take 2. That's really not a big deal. And now we've got some choices. So we can just draw, I suppose, first before we do anything else. See what it is we'd like to do. So I think I do want to shock here and just hold up most mana possible. Oh shoot, that was probably a mistake. I guess what I can do here actually is I will just draw 2. Oh, it'll put me up to 8 cards. I don't know if that's what I want to do. What if I can go Snap, Opt, untap 2 lands, still have Cryptic up? Yeah, I like that a little bit better. Do not need that. That is fine. We'll go ahead and pass. We'll untap these 2. Now we have Cryptic up for any shenanigans they may have. Decent chance that we'll end up bouncing, actually, this Vial with one of the Cryptic modes. I should probably pay to keep that at this point. The only thing that would punish them would be exactly hard a Kiki-Jiki, but I think they're even fine with that at this point. So we'll see what this is. Matron. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and counter that. Uh, counter this, bounce this. Just to make sure that they don't really have too much to be able to do. Yeah, there we go. Sweet. So that's going to be it for that game. Ooh, see, like I said, I restarted and good lord, a lot of things changed. So we're going to go ahead and probably bring in most of our removal. I do actually like Gust because it's a way to get through Cavern of Souls. These are all possible cards. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we don't want. Force of Negation is not great. Spell Snare, although it can be good, is super awkward um, through vials and caverns, which is definitely not ideal, as well as any of the other counter magic. So these are all definitely considerations. Right now we have 9 potentially to bring. Oh, I don't need this Thought Seize, I don't think. Um, I guess this is an 8/8 right here. Is there anything else to consider? Vendilion Click? I don't think so. Teferi's not going to be able to do anything. Thoughtseize is not bad. It's not that I don't want that card, because it would be nice to be able to see exactly when we need to be afraid of something and when we can kind of take a turn off. But I think in general this is fine. And this is definitely, the kind of deck where I am super happy that I have that second Supreme Verdict in the main as opposed to that third Jace. I just really would not want to be caught right now with only 2 Wraths available. That wouldn't be great for us, I don't think. So it should hopefully be working out pretty well. Definitely just looking for early interaction. Fatal Push, Eliminate, Snapcaster, all pretty solid. Esper Charm can be pretty good as well too. Early on, just at being able to do things like, making them discard like we did before, just to get the last 2 cards out of their hand, or even starting it early. Yeah, that seems fine. Having 2 Teferis is definitely awkward. They are typically a Thoughtseize deck post sideboard, so there's a decent chance that they'll have a Thoughtseize for something like this Verdict, but if they don't, we are in a pretty solid spot being able to have Opt, Kaya's Guile, Supreme Verdict, just as ways to try to make sure that we're not going to die to the combo, as well as, some card manipulation. So, alright, Scourge Prospector, Aether Vial. It's not great for us. Definitely don't like seeing the Vial. Vial is the only card that we could potentially force a negation, but I do not believe that that is anywhere near worth it. I mean, just 2 for 1ing yourself out of the gate, just really not what you want to be doing, especially in a grindy matchup like this. Okay, so gonna play 1 Scourge Prospector. We know they have another Scourge Prospector. That's an interesting choice for sure. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab an island. They very well could be a Blood Moon deck, and I don't want to, get janked out of something like that. Can keep this on top. This next op probably has to try to search for a land, regardless. And we'll go ahead and grab Hallowed Fountain with this one. I suppose this is a bit awkward. Maybe there's a chance that we'll have to grab Godless Shrine because we grabbed this. Is this still the same one, or is this a different one? Oh, it is the same one. Okay, good. Sorry, chance that we might have to grab Godless Shrine to make sure that we have white and black with a card like Kaya's Guile and Fatal Push in our hand, but we'll see. We shall see. What do we have here? A Goblin Creature spell. That's fine, I think, actually. We will go ahead and, inside of combat, we'll grab that Godless Shrine, push this, and opt. We're going to take a bit of damage here. Get that out of there. We'll just do this now. Sweet. Get that F6 value in. Take our 2 damage. Play a land, and we will go ahead and pass. Not too much to be done here. I think there's a pretty reasonable chance that I will just grab Hallowed Fountain. I will make them sack and gain 4 life. We could also make them sack and make a 1/1 to try to block this. That might be better. We'll have to see if they have anything coming out of this vial or anything else that's going to be good coming off the top as well, too, to see, if we need to change that plan. But overall, the Kaya's Guile is looking pretty good here. This is a Ringleader. That's pretty bad for us, actually. We have the Gust for it, obviously, but I just really don't want to... Okay, it's not a Ringleader. It's a 3-drop, okay? So it's got to be Harbinger. That's why they fetched first. I can only imagine, at least. Oh. I wonder what... Oh, and then they're going to find a ringleader, I'm sure. Okay. Gotcha. That makes some sense. That does make some sense. Yep. Found it. They're going to cast it right now. I think we are going to have to gust this. It's not great for us here, but we're definitely taking some damage. What'd they do with this? Put it on top. Okay. I would assume, but still just good to double check. So they have a ringleader as their next draw. I'll just go ahead and grab our Hollow Fountain right now. Land. Okay, so we can just Supreme Verdict here. If we Supreme Verdict, we drop to 10. The Goblin Ringleader drops us down to 8. And then we have another Verdict to clean up whatever they find off that. That might not be too bad, actually. Having the second Verdict makes it a little bit easier to just kind of fire off this first one and not be quite as concerned. We do probably just grab Island here. I would like to have a second black source, but it's not nearly as important as the third blue source for Cryptic Command. So we're definitely going to have to keep that in mind and grab an Island here. I don't want to take too much more damage just because, Ringleader could find another Ringleader or something, and that always gets a little bit messy or potentially a little scary. So we'll see what they have going on for us here. All right, go ahead and grab ourselves that Island. We'll just cast this right now. Bam. Plus, casting the only sorcery in the deck means you get to F6 through your turn and your opponent's turn. So, extra value. So they should probably put this up to 4, so they can vial in the Ringleader and then potentially cast a couple of like 2-drops or 1-drops for things that they find. Okay, so they only found Sling Gang Lieutenant. We're not dead to that. That's good. There's that Blood Moon I was talking about. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're down to 4, so we do have to Supreme Verdict here again. Like I said, definitely happy that we have multiples of this, but being able to have a follow-up Kaya's Guile the next turn is definitely pretty solid. We just kind of have to hope to avoid more Ringleaders, I guess, is really the out here. Yep, fall down to 4. Okay. Drawing a land would be nice. Obviously, to be able to get one of these Teferis down. There might be a world where we even... We'll have to see what our opponent does, but there might even be a world where we just tuck this Vial, because we don't want them to be able to, if they hit another Ringleader, do something too crazy. That's probably going to be a little bit nuts, but we'll have to see how things shake up for us, I guess. What'd you find? Auntie's Hovel, sweet. Land? Oof, yeah. Sweet. So now that there's nothing going on, definitely just going to plus this. We'll draw. Oof. Okay. All right. We just need to untap. We just need to untap. Please, please, please let us untap. Let us survive this turn so we can cast Kaya's Guiles for the rest of the game. I don't know if there's anything that kills us, but okay. Whew, sweet. I was going to say the only thing I'm really worried about is a Blood Moon to just shut us off these things, but I guess Teferi even gets to tuck that, so that's not even true necessarily. All right, so we'll go ahead and do this. If we draw a piece of 2-mana interaction, we could full mode all the way entwine this Kaya's Guile and then untap 2 mana from this Teferi, which would be pretty sweet. Something like a Gust or a Purge would both be pretty nice. We'll see what we rip off this Teferi. Regardless, being able to go to town with this Kaya's Guile is pretty sweet. Okay, and we did draw that, so I think that is going to be our plan. We're just going to go ahead and entwine this. Do this, choose all the modes. Then we're going to go ahead to our end step, and we can untap the blue-black and the blue-white. It's always nice to represent double blue, because the deck does play Logic Knot, so representing a card that we don't have in our deck is definitely a good idea because it can potentially slip someone up. It also means that we can do things like opt into, if we need to block and then try to find a push, and we can fatal push something, or if we opt, into, I don't know, another opt potentially as well too is something to consider. Regardless, I think we are once again in a pretty solid spot. Having two more Kai's Guiles to be able to just make sure that we're gaining life and eat these creatures off the top as they come is pretty big. We are still a little concerned for something like a Blood Moon or a Ringleader. The Ringleader being a little more concerning because it just draws them cards. The Blood Moon a little bit less so with this Teferi in play, but you know, anytime that you don't get to draw cards with Teferi, it is definitely a bummer. Okay, so this one, with this trigger on the stack, just in case we do find ourselves a push, I am going to go ahead and opt. We will go ahead and keep that though. So that'll happen. But this is a intervening if on this, which is pretty sweet, which means that we have the potential, ooh, that's a nice draw, to, if we would have pushed this in response to its trigger, it would have been really awesome. We would have killed that. It would have dealt 0 damage as opposed to 1 when it resolved, and wouldn't have actually killed the spirit, which would have been nice, but is not the end of the world. Drawing a land here would be kind of cool just because, hitting your land drops is awesome, but once again, we're in a spot where we can just go to town with this Kaya's Guile, and now we actually get to hold up Aether Gust, which might actually just be best possible at this point. We'll see what they're waiting for here. They've got, maybe they're double queued. That's always a reasonable possibility. People do like to play multiple queues at the same time. So it's definitely possible. Ooh, that's pretty sweet. So now, now I don't even think I want to do that yet. I kind of want to take this Aether Vial. I think we're just going to say go. Feels like a waste of mana, though. Feels like a bit of a waste of mana. Yeah, you know what? I lied. I think we're just going to... I guess we can just do this. Just make them sacrifice and make ourselves a 1/1 again. I really don't think that we need to gain the 4 life with this other's Kaya's Guile in hand, and this lets us hold up a variety of different things. Bam, bam. Untap, untap. Come on, there we go. Like Archmage's Charm plus Gust, or being able to still have access to Cryptic Command, or, just a whole bunch of different things. Basically in an almost unlosable spot here with this Gust. Now I think at this point we're in a pretty solid spot. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll just let that happen. That's not really doing anything at this point. Just killing a 1/1 is fine. And on end step, I think I'm just going to draw 2. See what we get. Just some more lands, which is fine. That Snapcaster's pretty good at this point. We got a lot of juicy targets for that. Like more Kaya's Guiles, of course. Like I said at the beginning, going through that deck tech super quick, I mean, Kaya's Guile just feels like a solid MVP out of this deck. It's very, very good. No, we'll go ahead and pass. Now that we have these Snapcasters as well, too, I just want to hold up as much mana as we can. Just to make sure that we can get to a point where we can tick this up one more time, ultimate that, and then get ourselves into a basically unlosable spot where every single turn we're exiling 2 permanents. And how would we like to deal with this? I think I will just snap push this. Sweet. And there you have it. All right, so that's going to be match number 1 in the books, and I'll see you for round number 2. All right, and here we are with round number 2 with Esper Control. Winning the die roll like solid champ here. Gigantha. So probably Niv. I've seen, what else was it? There was a Jund list the other day actually that was running Gigantha, and then sometimes Tron will be running that. Regardless, I think this hand's fine. I would obviously prefer if it was a creature-based deck. You never really want to queue into something like Tron with a deck like this, but I mean, at least we have a mana leak. Maybe that does something for us. But yeah, it's about yeah, okay. Had not realized that they had mulliganed as low as they had. Had I paid attention to that, definitely definitely would have sniffed that one out. Okay, well, at least, like I said, at least we do have a mana leak, which is good. I will mana leak like an Ancient Stirrings here if they have. Ooh, We'll definitely Mana Leak that one. Now we're in a spot where I love to draw Archmage's Charm, Esper Charm, Glacial Fortress, I guess. Or I was going to say Opt actually would be decent. Something to be able to flash back with a Snapcaster wouldn't be too bad. Eesh. Okay, they found a second Tron piece. That's scary. Once again, just going to be holding on to this. Snapcaster Mana Leak, I suppose. Kind of hoping to draw something here. Okay, this is probably green mana for another Sylvan Scrying, which is going to once again meet the fate of a. Okay, well, I think we have to do that here as well too. I was gonna say it's gonna meet the fate of a Mana Leak, but I think that this one has to be Mana Leaked as well too. I do have to say I appreciate the opponent and all of their old borders. I am a huge lover of the old border cards. I think they're awesome. I think they're great. I think bringing back old borders is a decision I'm super on board with. Um, just love everything about it. Okay, well, now we're in a tough spot. We did not, unfortunately, draw a piece of 2-mana interaction, which would have been fantastic for us. Okay, they drew a forest. That stinks. Yeah, I was going to say because it means it turns on all those green spells that we had been countering. But I guess the good news is we do have an active Teferi. There's a decent chance that we can find something relevant here. Still have yet to do that, however. Yikes. Okay, and now the question is, do they have a payoff? We get to float some mana, and then I suppose we can act like we have something by doing this now? Yeah, sure. And nah, it really doesn't make much of a difference in the long term. And you know, pretending like we have Mana Leak is the same as pretending like we have something like Cryptic at this point. So, okay, that's something we can potentially deal with. I don't like what I don't like is this probably finds like a spell. Really? That's what we're concerned with at this point? I guess if we think we have more gas coming, I was gonna say is gonna find something to turn off this Teferi. Because anything that doesn't turn off the Teferi just can get tucked by the Teferi. So that's definitely interesting. Okay, so they found, yeah, their sequencing here is crazy. Had they just Ancient Stirrings before, they would have gotten to Karnas this turn, which is kind of wild. But they decided not to for some reason. So just looking for, oof, definitely not those. We're gonna go ahead and do this now. That's a lot of lands. Oof, that's a lot of lands. Try and look again. Oh. Okay, Force Negation. That's awesome. So now I think I'm just going to attack this Karn. They have only one unknown card in hand. And something we have to keep in mind is this is going to make our Force Negation cost 6, but we should be able to make that work if we play an untap land and then untap our 2 lands, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, we can play a tap land as well too, right? Because this makes it cost 3 more. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we've already got that unlocked. So we can go ahead and play this tapped. I did not activate Teferi. Well, now I guess we just have to alt cast this and pay the 3 mana. Boy, that is something, huh? That's quite the choice that I just made. Okay. Well, that's probably a pretty big deal. We're down. Yes, we'll pay 3 mana. We're down a card. Although the Supreme Verdict probably doesn't matter, but we're also down the card that we should have drawn off this Teferi. So that probably matters quite a bit. Okay, so first of all, we get to kill this Karn. And now, do we want to just plus because we can Cryptic through this defense grid? I think so. I think what might end up coming back to bite us here is just the fact that we didn't get to ultimate as fast with this, because there's a decent chance that they find something with a cast trigger that ruins our day, like an Ulamog. That's definitely not good for us. Yeah, I think we need to take care of that. That's got to be the most expensive cryptic command I have ever cast. They have Wormcoil? Thragtusk. Okay, Thragtusk is not the end of the world. Wormcoil would be a little more frustrating because we wouldn't be able to do anything about it really, but this one we can kind of ignore a little bit easier. But as you can see, I mean, had we had the opportunity, we'd be in a spot where we could have ultimate ultimate the Teferi this turn and start to eat their lands. So I mean, it obviously does matter here, being one loyalty back and one card deeper. Who knows what that next card is, but it's definitely a big deal. Okay, so we're definitely going to chump here. Hopefully they don't have anything. I'd love to be able to just scry. Just put the Gigantha in your hand. No? Okay. That's just a redraw. I don't think we can try to tag that. They already have green mana, so it doesn't actually make any difference. Not Wormcoil, not Wormcoil, not Wormcoil. Ugin? Oh, Walking Ballista? Oh, no, okay. This is fine. Sure, it doesn't matter. Wow. Wow, they just scooped it up? Oh my goodness. Okay, well that's obviously huge. Taking game one from Tron in a matchup like this is whew, massive for us. Absolutely massive. I'll take what we can get. So these are all the cards that I'm considering. Vidillion Click maybe even too. Get over here. Guess I'll separate these into two piles, make it a little easier on myself. Cards that I'm not super interested in. These Supreme Verdicts are not great. These Kaya's Guiles are pretty bad. These pushes. This path. This Spell Snare. Spell Snare can only tag, what's it called? Sylvan Scrying. And although that can be important on the draw, I think that having a narrow card in a matchup like this is just really not where we want to be. Yeah, I mean, I think I like all this. This is just going to be a 9-for-9 swap. I really like Mentor and Click, just being able to have some sort of threat, either at instant speed or something that kills super fast. Obviously, these other cards are all pretty decent. The reason I'm bringing in Teferi and Gust is really primarily to deal with whatever number of... ooh, I got a bit of lag here. Is to deal with whatever number of... what's it called? Veil of Summers they have. Just putting the Teferi into play so that way they can't Veil of Summer views a pretty big deal. Hopefully we can get to a spot like that. It's not really going to sit around for forever and do anything incredible. It's not bouncing permanents very frequently, and it's not, winning a counter war outside of Veil of Summer, but I think it's important. Here we've got Opt, Dovin's Veto, Snapcaster Opt. I think that's probably fine enough. This Jace might end up having to be our win condition, but I don't always love that against Tron. And I'm only getting out of 5 here, which is fine, I suppose. I'll just take 2 off this and pass. I'd like to, if I'm going to telegraph anything, I want to telegraph my opts. I think that the sequence that you play your lands in is super important in a matchup like this, because they are obviously going to know that we're going to have something on 2 or 3, or we die, basically. And I think I would much rather, that's a great draw, telegraph my cantrip on 1 than telegraph something later on. Alternatively, we could have, played a fetch lane, and that's fine too, but I think this is probably coming into play untapped at some point anyway, so it's just a good call. We're going to go ahead and use this rejection while we can, and then next turn we can snap reject, which is fantastic for us. So that was obviously a great pickup. Hopefully they do not have Veil of Summer. They have 3 cards left in hand, which is something to keep a track of here, because Esper Charm is pretty good at just tagging their last couple of cards, so we'll see what they have. Now, do I want to... They have not played a land yet. So they could... What could they do here? I'm trying to debate on if I want to Snapcaster reject or if I want to Dovin's Veto. I think I want to Snapcaster Ceremonious Rejection because it's the most mana intensive, and they don't have green open right now for Veil of Summer. And so I'd rather get the most mana intensive thing out of the way so we get the opportunity to maybe be able to sneak something in. Wow. What I was going to say is get the opportunity to sneak something in with a Veil by maybe trying to like make them discard and then veto a Veil of Summer if they had one or something like that. But, you know, alternatively, you can just pick a line and they just scoop. So I guess that's it for round 2, and I'll see you in round 3. All right, here we are in round number 3. We are currently 2-0 with Esper Control. See what we run into here. We don't have any information from the opponent outside of that they mulliganed once. With a fine hand. I mean, got Opt, Mana Leak. So we've got spells for 1 and 2. We've got one of our good finishers in Teferi. That's a pretty good one as well, too. Maybe we could have... Actually, you know what? Probably should have just let on Flooded Strand. Don't really want to signal anything if I can avoid it. And it's really not a big deal. Okay, so maybe Heliod? Interesting. But, you know, just a small thing. Okay. Some sort of creature deck. I would assume Heliod, but I don't know if Heliod typically plays the green fetches like Wooded Foothills, and I don't know if they play Noble Hierarch. Maybe that's new. Regardless, I'm definitely snapping that off against the Noble Hierarch deck. That is for sure. Regardless of what they're doing, they've got at least one CMC, and this lets us turn 2 into turn 3 counter. Looking pretty decent here. Pendelhaven does make me think it's Heliod. Okay, most definitely is. So what's the worst they could do? The worst they could do is cast the 2-drop that gains life and adds more counters here. I think Auric Champion's actually more important in this matchup. Yeah. Yep, this guy. So we could just try to snap take this. I don't really love that. Obviously, them having an extra mana is good for them, but I think we're just at a spot where I just don't really think that's where we need to be. This is fine. I'd much rather leave this up for a potential Heliod. Answering a Heliod on the battlefield is actually fairly tricky for us. End step. Oh, they are just going to jam. Wow, what is this promo? I have not seen that before. All right, well, I am most definitely going to be countering that. I haven't seen that promo before. That's definitely interesting. I was going to say I would Snapcaster Opt as opposed to regular Opt for the same reason that I had previously done what I did in the Tron matchup, just mana efficiency. But also because that would tempt them to Collected Company if they passed with 4 mana up right then and there, and then we could nab that with a Force pitching this Opt. Okay, so now we've got some choices, and so do they. We can take another 3 here. I think end of turn, I might actually steal this Hierarch. Excuse me, so that we can cast this Teferi, which is pretty cool. 1 card left. I have to imagine it's not Company. They didn't have it last turn. Oh, what am I talking about? The Archmage's Charm is right there. Duh. I have to imagine it's not Company. Just because they would have cast it last turn if they had one. So we could... Okay, I'm gonna get myself a Plains here to make sure we have double white. I'm gonna make them sack and get a 1/1. They're probably just gonna ditch this Hierarch, would be my guess, which is, you know, totally fine, just eating away at their mana, and then we'll go ahead and cast this Opt end of turn. See if we can find ourselves a 5th land. No, but that's pretty good too. Being able to push snap push is obviously pretty awesome. So this puts us in a really solid spot now. It also means that we have mana up for Force Negation for a Company plus just a singular push, which is nice. So I can probably pretty confidently just go ahead for push this inside combat here. Just don't take any unnecessary damage. Or I suppose I do have Snapcaster Mana Leak up right now, which does answer a Heliod, so actually I lied. I'm going to go ahead and take this too. They're debating companying inside of combat after no blocks to try to just get the infinite life and kill us. That would be, oh boy, would that be something. Wouldn't work, but that would definitely be a play. Now we can go ahead and do this. And we can even Snapcaster Opt end of turn, because them gaining 2 life is fine. Them being able to cast Company in response is also fine. We have this Force where we can just pitch this other Snapcaster for it. Although Snapcaster has a lot of juicy targets, so we might even be in a world now where we pitch this to Fairy, but it seems pretty unlikely. Yeah, they are gonna go for it. Okay, so I think it is just this snap. This way we can look for a land here with this Opt. And if we find one, we just get to jam this to Fairy and basically end the game. Oof, that's really good. Really, really good. That means that we're now protected against potentially another top deck company for something that could be problematic. We'll see what happens here. Go ahead and untap some lands. Once again, representing Logic Knot, not as a card that we have, but just as, a good card. Something they might have to respect further down the line. Heliod. Oh, Skyclave. Yeah, I mean, that just tags our snap, and then we basically get it back by getting to push this, right? So that's pretty sweet. I'm going to wait till end step, however. That would make sense as a card that they've been hanging on to, which is perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and untap. Perfect. Draw ourselves a card. I'm going to make sure to not misclick through these Teferis here this time. Go ahead and get in for 3. And now we're protected against a company, which is really the best thing that they could have. We don't have to worry about infinite life because we have the Teferi alternate win condition of just milling them out by Teferi tucking itself, which is also pretty sweet. Is this just another Skyclave? Heliod as their last card. Okay, sweet. So we can go ahead and counter draw here. Should have left up another blue, but don't think it matters. I think they're, yep, I was just going to say debating a concede. So sweet. This deck feels like it eats this deck alive, honestly. We've got a lot of cards that we can potentially bring in as well, too. I don't love Veto in a matchup like this. I just really don't want to be in a spot where, we have a Veto for like a company or something like that, and they just start to go on their beatdown plan, because they definitely do have games where they'll just go like, the 2-drop into Ranger Captain, and then, just not cast a spell for a while. And if we don't answer what's on the board, that can be really scary. And drawing cards like Dovin's Veto can potentially kind of ruin our day in that situation. So I don't love that. I think also one thing I like to do is just trim on these counter spells. I know that Force Negation can tag Company, it can tag Veil, but I just really don't want to be in a spot where I have to 2-for-1 myself if I can avoid it. And it's really just not great. Esper Charm's actually pretty sweet because it can potentially tag a Utopia Sprawl on a land, and that, more often than not, will end up mattering, which is kind of sweet. And then, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and take out 2 Mana Leaks. Actually, on the draw, I'll go ahead and leave these Guiles to the side, and I'll just make this switch. On the play, I might swap that around. To have the other 2 Guiles in for the other 2 Mana Leaks. I just don't want to get super far behind on the board, and a Mana Leak on the draw can potentially help us with that. So that'll be a change I'll make there. But Kai's Guile is good here just as an edict effect. It's really our best answer to Auriok Champion, and You know, although we can potentially block it with a Snapcaster Mage, it's pretty easy for it to pick up a counter or two and really start to present us with a clock. And if I can avoid it, I obviously don't want to be path to exiling it. So, all right, looks like our opponent mulliganed once, and they are leading off on an Arboro. Fatal push, not a fatal push. Okay. Well, that's a bit of a bummer. The good news is we could potentially get to a spot where we can charm and take this if they're cut off on mana. The bad news is this could mean a turn 2 company. Yikes. If it is in fact a turn 2 company, this is their nut draw. Not too much we can do about that. They've got white here. Don't do it. Don't do it. That is fine. That is perfectly fine. Whew. All right. Super happy about that. They only have 2 cards left, and their best use of 4 mana is a Conclave Mentor. So I feel pretty good. It could obviously mean that they have Veil of Summer. That's definitely a card that could still have like a Veil of Summer and a land. I'll go ahead and shock myself here, and then I won't have to at all down the line. That could very easily be it. Because of that, do I want to just push here now, actually? So I can shock push, and I can just take out this elf and just deny them mana. 1, 2, 3. The most I could have is 4 then. And they didn't do anything with... Yeah, I like that because this leaves them at 4 mana, and they didn't do anything with 4 mana last turn. So they would have to top deck something, to make a better play than they did last turn, which is just a singular Conclave Mentor. I think we're super fine with that. And we could be in a spot where we, on their upkeep, go to try to make them discard their last 2 cards here. And if they have Veil of Summer, they have Veil of Summer. It is what it is, but yeah, okay. No, so they have Heliod? Spike Fear. Okay, that's less scary for us than Heliod, but it's also not great. Although we can... Oh, okay. Well, that's good then. So we can... We have a lot of choices here. With the push in the yard, it means that we can Snapcaster, push this. And if we're going to do that, I like doing that now because it doesn't let them move counters around. And moving counters around is definitely scary with the Conclave Mentor out. So I think we're just going to do that now. And I'll just go ahead and fetch an island here. It also puts a snap into play, which is good because that can potentially trade with something. So we can go ahead and push this so they can't start moving counters around. Go ahead and pass the turn. And then next turn, we're just in a great spot where we get to do things like hold up Archmage's Charm and Fatal Push, or Esper Charm and Fatal Push, or, depending on what we draw next turn, maybe slam a Planeswalker down their throat if we've traded off pretty favorably on the board. I mean, who knows? So, yep, we're going to start by drawing a card. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and F6, even though technically we probably shouldn't do that because maybe there's a chance that we have Force Negation, but, I'm not worried about that. Oof. Yikes. They found a company. It's the only real reason to be doing this. That's not great for us. Found a Spike Feeder. Oh, yeah, because they didn't have enough mana otherwise. Okay. Well, this is fine because we get to run back basically the same play. The problem here is they get to do what I was saying before, where they move a counter. And so we'll see exactly why that's a problem, because now this is a 4/4. And that's some tough beats. I think we'll leave this around, and then we can push this turn. Thoughtseize, that's a pretty bad draw. That's not great. So I think we should just go for push this right now, let them gain 4 life, and then pass the turn. Because now that they've moved a counter off this, we are actually in a spot where this doesn't matter too much to us. We just get to, block it. Since it's a 2/2, I do have to be a little bit cautious of our life total here. I'd like to be able to get blue-black here. Okay, that's... That makes me kind of want to Archmage's Charm this. I think I will, actually. When they go to do this, I'll go ahead and grab an island. So I'm probably going to Pendlehaven this. They might even move a counter to it. Yeah, sweet. And then we'll just get to steal this. Although they should be doing this in a different order. They should Pendelhaven it now. Opponent. Bummer. Oh, and then they're gonna try to save that. Oh, sure. Okay, so this will make this a 2/3. I see what they're doing. That's fine. That's fine. I'll just go ahead and get ourselves an island, like I was saying. Come on. And I'll take that. Thank you. So now we have a 2/2 Arbor Elf, which is sweet. Obviously, we lose the Snapcaster in the block here, but all things considered, that's really not a big deal for us. They're out of cards in hand. We now drew that, which is pretty great. I think I want to draw 2 with this more than I want to make them discard 2. My issue is if we try to make them discard 2, and they draw either Collected Company or Veil of Summer, we're really in for a world of hurt. I just don't want to go for that and then just get completely blown out at instant speed. So I think drawing 2 is going to be better for us. Okay. I might as well do it now in case I draw like a Spell Snare or something. Yeah. Oop. Not target. That is very relevant. We do not, in fact, target. Okay, so now this is fine. I'm going to go ahead and let all this happen. We're going to go ahead and block. They're going to Pendelhaven it. I'm going to Path it. They're going to move a counter to this Conclave Mentor. And then we can jam this to Fairy and Fatal Push. So they should, I guess they could, yeah, they should move the counters. Yep, make that a 4/4. That seems much better. Oh, I think I want to still to Fairy here. So I can just go ahead and draw myself a card. Go to my end step. I'm going to untap the Godless Shrine and this Hollowed Fountain. And then I'm still going to do this on my end step because I don't want them to draw Veil of Summer. Or rather, if they draw Veil of Summer, I don't want our card to be countered because that's a pretty big game at this point. Letting them draw a card off of it is obviously not great, and we just don't want to be in a spot like that. Sweet. Well, now I think we're in a pretty solid winning position. We can start to attack with this Arbor Elf, which is sweet. I'm going to go ahead and play this tapped. Anything they do can be cryptic at this point. This Thoughtseize is definitely looking awkward, but I think at this point it's fine. I'm glad that we boarded it in regardless. I think that, I wouldn't want to be caught in a spot where... Sorry, I wouldn't want to be caught in a spot where we don't have any early interaction against a potential combo deck, and so I think just having as much early interaction as we can is always good. And now we get to do things like, full-on entwine this Kaya's Guile while our opponent's still flooding. Yikes. That is not good. Not good for them. That Mana Leak probably doesn't do anything. But then again, neither does this Thoughtseize, so that's fine. I think actually I will just take a land. I mean, obviously we have better draws in our deck, but at this point, I'd rather just hit the land drop than not hit it. And there's no guarantee that we would hit it otherwise, so. I suppose I could have fetch there for a tap land to be able to untap it, but once again, I don't think that matters too much. Our opponent's just flooding out. They just really haven't been able to make too many choices. We've kind of just had the answer at every turn. Like I said, I feel like this deck that we're playing right now just kind of just beats up on what they're doing. And here, we're just going to get to go to town with this Kaya's Guile, get everything. Bam. Black, white. And we can fetch ourselves a tap land here. I think our opponent might be deciding Yeah, I was gonna say if they want to scoop. All right, well that is a solid 6-0, 3-0. The deck obviously looks insane so far. I mean, we beat Tron, which heaven knows, if we could beat Tron with this deck, I am all in for it. A control deck that has any chance at beating Tron, I'll take it. But we got a little lucky. They had to mulligan quite a bit. We kind of had everything go well for us in the post board game as well too. So but yeah, here we are. We are 3-0, 6-0, and I'm actually gonna take off and head to bed for the night. I got to work tomorrow, but I will hop back on here, and I'll see you in round 3 and what will actually be tomorrow for me.